like, like what is the carbon markets? Like I can talk for hours about. Yeah, sorry, this is gone live.
Yeah, this is just gone live. It's okay. Yeah, but
uh,
okay. I mean, we're gonna wait for 20 more seconds just so everything is on YouTube. Just want to make sure that before we start, everything is saved and everything is perfect. For whoever is tuning in, whoever is tuning in to the live stream, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. This is the AMA with Gudmundur Sigbergsson, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the International Carbon Registry. Um, Welcome. Thank you so much for for being here, for coming on the AMA. Super excited to have you. Let me take my glasses off. It's like a reflection. We have some very cool
I feel
questions.
so the same, but I no, can't see you. Sorry. Thank you for the invitation.
It's okay. We have some very cool questions today for Gudmundur. Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself briefly and we can get started?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Gudmundur Sigbergsson. I'm the founder, as you mentioned, of the International Carbon Registry. But we will go a little bit, maybe in more details, the background of this initiative, maybe later on the call. But yeah, uh, my background comes from civil engineering and environmental engineering. Worked at the Central Bank of Iceland for many years and established a certification body for management system certifications prior to this venture.
That sounds amazing. I'm sure that everyone will be very excited to hear everything that we have to talk about today. So let's not delay anything further. Um, let's not delay. Give me 1 second. Let's not delay anything further. Let's get to it. So the very first question that we have: what is it about IMPT that can help climate change?
So like when Mike introduced this to me, it took me a while to grasp the idea, but when I got the idea and the uh, what what was being done here was that engaging like consumers in like uh, engaging in climate action through the purchase through their consumption was like creating a new 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 demand for carbon credits, and not
Mhm,
carbon credits and just like demand, and that will increase the supply of like carbon projects, and that will
mhm,
support like the scaling of this market, and not necessarily the market, the scaling of uh, real climate action. And I was really like excited about this approach towards
mhm.
climate action.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your last sentence there, just kind of being like, kind of realizing how in depth and how knowledgeable the founders are, and how, I spoke to Dennis, and the whole project was worked on for 4 years, which is, a very big time. And, these guys really built something unique from it. So the second question, what is the carbon credit market? That's a question that we have a lot of people ask us, and I think you're the perfect person to answer that for us.
Yeah, just bear with me here.
So,
Hopefully, I won't uh, bore you too much on this
oh,
subject, but
the more
like
information, the
carbon
better.
markets, yeah. So like carbon markets are in a way like segregated into two silos. One is the compliance market, which is
Okay.
comprises of, for example, like obligatory regulation and something that corporates are bound to do. And for
Mhm.
example, on that is the EU ETS, like the cap and trade allowance scheme, where permits or uh, industries that fall under this scheme are obliged to buy allowances if they don't have allowances to uh, uh, compensate for their emissions. So that is a regulated market. And then
Okay.
uh, and that is out of the scope of what IMPT is engaged with. So then it is the voluntary carbon markets
Hmm.
who are were actually born out of Kyoto Protocol that was since 1997,
Okay.
were like 37 uh, nations ratified to
Hmm.
reduce their emissions, but they were allowed to do that, but both on uh, within their boundaries, or they could do it with different approaches. One of them were called the Clean Development Mechanism, which is like the all voluntary greenhouse gas programs. They emerged from the Clean Development Mechanism, where nations were allowed to reduce or engage in actions that reduced or reduced the fossil intensity, for example, in electricity grids, or
Hmm.
reducing greenhouse gases in the atmosphere in those regions. So,
Okay.
but that was following certain like principles on the project originations. For example, you have to assess the baseline of the 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 baseline of the business as usual scenario, the
Hmm.
additionality of the project. Is it something that would be implemented as well, irrespective of any carbon revenues? And
Hmm.
this is something that like is the mother of all voluntary carbon markets. Uh, uh, like the biggest like greenhouse gas program there is the Vera program, BCS Vera, and then there is
Okay.
also this gold standard program, and then of course the ICR International Carbon Registry also run our own program, which is uh, structured around these carbon principles that emerge under the Clean Development Mechanism. So
Okay.
I want to maybe discuss a little bit more on how you create a carbon credit. So
Yeah.
because carbon
That's,
credit is just isn't just a something that is born out of nothing. So like project proponents that are want to implement some climate action, but it's not like compared to the baseline, it's not financially beneficial. Is not financially attractive, and or that it just doesn't make any sense to go into it because it's you don't have any revenues from the implementation. And there you have the additionality part. So every project needs to go through really thorough and robust uh, requirements and conform
okay.
to all those requirements and disclose them publicly within like a project design description or documentation of the project, which gets
Hmm.
validated by a competent validation body. Uh, and then you implement the project.
Hmm.
You operate the project. You monitor the output of the project. What is this doing to the what's mitigating climate change? And based on the monitoring, that gets verified. The
Okay.
mitigations there or the impacts they get verified, and based on the verification, the proponents are allowed to issue carbon credits, and
Hmm.
there you have then the off takers would be the like in the current ecosystem is that this has been primarily for the purpose of offsetting emissions by corporates that are taking responsibility on a voluntary basis their emissions. They have some
Hmm.
objectives in reducing their emissions, and they want to compensate for the remainder of the current emissions by offsetting them. There you can
Okay.
use carbon credits, and important element of them, a carbon credit when it's used is retired and sent to carbon heaven, and never can be used again. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so yeah, okay, I think
That's a lot of steps.
more or
That's a
less.
lot of steps. So, I mean, just kind of to ignore, let's say, not ignore. Let's kind of go even more in depth. So, how what you said about verification? How long would like verification be? And obviously, there's a lot of steps that have to be involved with that. out of like approximately how long do projects or let's say companies or organizations kind of get verified in that kind of area?
So like for like implementing a project is different between one project to
Mm.
another based on
Yeah.
the sector it's in. So, but based on
Yeah.
just a regular project, you fund the project by other means than the from the corporate revenue. Sometimes you have an off-taker agreement from an organization that is willing to participate with the off-taking of
Yeah.
the carbon credit, so you get pre-financed. Uh,
Mhm.
but then you implement the project, do the documentation of the project, and you have to, like in the current system, you need to like have real carbon credits, like carbon credits or issued post their impacts. So
Mhm.
they get their vintages. So uh, uh, a production of electricity of a renewable uh, power producer operates uh, its production in 2020. Then
Yeah.
those credits get verified for the production in 2020, and they get
Mhm.
the the vintage 2020, and the same for 2021. So it's
Okay.
based on the implementation of the project itself, and then it's just based on the crediting period, which is different for project types. So,
Yeah.
for example, like for example, in ICR, post the Paris Agreement, the crediting period, the time frame which a carbon project is allowed to issue credits and be
Mhm.
rewarded for their uh, engagement in climate action. They're allowed for these. There are these essentially two types of projects. It's like reduction projects, and then
Okay.
there's these carbon removals. So avoidance projects have uh, from the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, uh, it's stipulated that they shall be crediting period of 5 years, so they are rewarded for 5 years, but they can extend
Okay.
their crediting period uh,
Yeah.
up to two times, so a maximum of 15 years if with a reassessment of their additionality and the baseline, and compared to the removal sector, where you are allowed to issue them for an affluent sector, that you are allowed to issue for 15 years crediting
Mhm.
period, and it's renewable twice, maximum
Okay.
for 5 years.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah,
That's a lot of steps. That's a lot of steps. That's sounds very
it's
very complicated.
complicated.
Yeah.
It's a complicated task, and that's just to like ensure the quality the
Yeah.
of the project.
Definitely. Definitely.
And it's also important to segregate the like different project types, like
Mhm.
carbon removals versus avoidance. What you are doing with your in your climate project.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. I mean, this kind of, I'm just looking at the next question. This question kind of falls into everything. So, how can IMPT assist the global carbon credit markets?
So coming to that, uh, as I said in the beginning, like IMPT is something like not like as I say often, business as usual scenario. Uh, like the organizations are most of the time like the off takers of credits.
Okay.
They have their uh, internal objectives or goals in reducing their emissions or
Hmm.
and want to reach this set out these claims about carbon neutrality or offsetting or net zero, what
Yeah.
they're called. But like this is the IMT is focused on like the consumers. The consumers are rewarded. So
Hmm.
that
Definitely.
increases the demand for the carbon credits and the carbon projects. So we are seeing like a new participant in this market.
Hmm. Amazing. How, we spoke about, carbon credits, etc. So how does everything that we just spoke about, how does it help the environment?
Mm, uh, so if I just may, uh, Let's share a slide here. It's something that probably most of the audience have seen before. Uh, share screen here. Are you seeing? Are you seeing what I see?
We see it now.
So
I think, yeah, no, it's okay.
what we can see this.
Yes, yes, we can see it. Yeah, it's just your microphone is sometimes cutting off, but it should be okay. I'm sure that is going to stabilize itself.
Okay, you get this picture. I think it's a
Yes, yes, we see it.
bandwidth.
We see it right now. Yeah.
I'll shut it off. Stop screen. Okay, stop. So like like we are still increasing our emissions to if you look behind don't look at like the COVID period where we reduced, but we will continue to grow our emissions. So like uh, actions taken by corporates, like taking real actions, looking at uh, all scopes of emissions, both like I tend to refer to emissions or being like the significant emissions if they look into what there's significant for their operations and take real responsibility for their actions and they do internal actions in reducing their emissions. That is always the first step in reducing emissions. It is reducing emissions, like
Yeah.
offsetting, and it should always be the second step. You have to know your organizational boundary, what you are uh, contributing towards climate change. Then uh, 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 the offsetting part, the climate project part will just support like on a cost beneficial way to reduce emissions and contribute to scale up removals with more and more participants being
Okay.
engaged in this market and being educated about how what we need to do and the best practices in engaging in with a climate project and with reducing emissions. I think this market will play a significant role in the in reducing like global emissions. And
Mhm.
in the next 10 years or until 2030, we have to reduce our emissions just uh, uh, almost by 50%, which seems
50%.
just a really uh, if you're gonna follow the IPCC 1.55-degree pathway. So it's just uh, because because we have just an inventory of a certain amount of CO2 that can be released into the atmosphere before we
Mhm.
just reach the 1.5-degree
Okay.
pathway.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think on that issue, like the how we can use the voluntary carbon markets to support the reduction in emissions. Yes, that significantly
Mhm.
gonna help that. But also some carbon projects are originated not necessarily due to the carbon revenues. They and they're implemented due to carbon revenues, but the first impact aren't always uh, the carbon or reducing carbon or removing carbon. Sometimes uh, see projects that are the main focus is water quality or
Mhm.
increased biodiversity, restoration of like ecosystem. That's the primary goal, but there is no credit system for that. That has been like globally accepted, like the carbon market. So they have this carbon element in them, so they get revenues from the carbon markets to be able to operate. So that's
Okay.
the
Okay.
other benefit
Okay.
from the carbon market.
So just so you said that obviously in the next you said 10 years, right? That the carbon emissions have to go down by 50%.
Yeah, more or less.
Okay, and do you think overall, as a society and as people, do you think we're doing a good job already, or are we on the way there, or do you think we're doing worse right now?
No, uh, uh, but it's a very difficult
Is
question.
it? Yeah, I
But
can. Well, it's okay.
I want to be optimistic here. I want to be optimistic, but we need more. We need
Yeah, yeah,
definitely need
yeah,
more,
yeah.
and it always starts with the internal actions of
Of corporations
both
and organizations.
organizations and
Yeah,
individuals with like behavioral
yeah,
change.
yeah, definitely. Amazing. Let's move on. And so, how does IMPT how is IMPT different from other carbon credit environments or projects? I was curious if you could share more information on that.
So on that, it's like as I said before, its focus is on consumers, and that is something that is new to this market from at least from what I have seen before. Like uh, other platforms that I've seen are focused like like some like airlines they incorporate the carbon like offsetting emissions from their flights within like the ticket price. But some
Okay.
in some other sectors they you have to add to like any purchase that you do to compensate for your emissions that are associated with the production of the product or the
Mhm.
services. So this is a like the consumers they don't need to do anything more than just consume, but
Okay.
hopefully on responsible manner. But uh, the like a percentage of the consumption is diverted into real climate action. That is something that is different that I've seen before.
Okay. 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 Amazing. Thank you so much for answering that one. Um, so just moving on, I think we mentioned this before, but where do the carbon credits actually come from?
So like uh, this is something that like as my role as a uh, carbon climate project expert uh, is to educate on different project types and what are
Okay.
what's out there. So it's the like carbon market currently are primarily built up on this avoidance
Mhm.
project. So as I said before, you have these two project types that you have avoidance projects that are reducing emissions, and then you have
Okay.
the sequestration or removals that are removing or sequestering, like with afforestation, reforestation,
Mhm.
CCS, carbon capture and storage, direct air capture. Like we have these different project type, and we, as I said before, like we have to focus on like reducing emissions in the near term, but in the long
Okay.
term, we need if we are ever going to reach this famous net zero, we
Mhm.
because we were never going to be able to reduce emissions towards zero. So we have
Okay.
to increase the biomass and increase the removals uh, 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 from anthropogenic emissions. So we have to
Yeah.
remove as well. So and that is a patience game. So we need to both uh, uh, focus on the reduction. So where are uh, the biggest impacts, and then on the removals, how how we can uh, promote and support future actions in the removal space. So that is
Okay.
something I see like the carbon credits coming from both of these sectors or these project types,
Mhm.
and then uh, yeah, come from different sectors. So
Okay. Okay.
if
Okay.
you look into the past, energy like renewables have been like leading the way voluntary on the voluntary space and the carbon market, uh, and like nature-based solutions, afforestation, Red Plus projects, improved forest management projects like that. But
Okay.
also like that, maybe we go a little bit into later. It's like innovation in space. We also need
Mhm.
to support innovation in climate action,
Okay.
and that meets some barriers entering this space.
Okay. So, because this is very interesting, even like overall. So, let's say you said before we go on this next question. So, you said innovation. Do you see what is the kind of current? Um, I would say in like Web3, we call it like meta, but I don't know
Methodologies.
what is the kind of current thing that would basically kind of be the new generation of offsetting the carbon, or like, because obviously, correct me if I'm wrong here, but obviously we had the wind farms and stuff, right? So that's one way of doing so. So what is the new generation of that?
Like I see, like in the short term, we will need to continue supporting the reductions, the
Mhm.
promote promoting how we can reduce emissions. But
Okay.
in the midterm, maybe post 2030 or 2035, this market will primarily be built up on carbon removals
Okay.
and how we
Okay.
can scale up uh, their implementation, because we have like as I said, like 95+% of all projects that have been uh, uh, registered are from the avoidance space. Less than
Mhm.
5% are from removals.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay. Makes sense. So obviously this it's a big impact then, but how specifically how impactful is a carbon credit then?
so uh, how impactful uh,
Is a
is
carbon
a
credit?
carbon
Yeah.
credit? So if, uh, like they are all carbon credits that are generated based on the carbon principles represent
Okay.
1 ton of CO2 equivalent that is either reduced or avoided to be released into the atmosphere or removed. So practically they are uh, 1 to 1, but
Mhm.
uh, their implementation are often not comparable, because some projects they have some other revenues than from the carbon. They then other projects the only source of revenues comes from selling carbon credits. Then some, for example, are DAC solutions, biochar,
Okay.
blue carbon. There's a lot of R&D involved, so they're like sometimes I'm asked, so how much is a carbon credit? It's somewhere between like maybe $3-4 to $1,000,
Yeah.
somewhere
Yeah.
in that range,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's they aren't like created equal based on their implementation cost, but
Mhm.
but their impacts should be comparable based on the fact that they are created based on uh, the they're created based on the carbon principles, and they follow these documentation requirements, validation, verification.
Okay. 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 Amazing. So just going on to the next question. Um, and I spoke to Dennis I think it was like last week, and obviously he was going to Iceland. You guys were speaking. How come you decided to join IMPT?
So both, as I wanted to be able to uh, like uh, 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 I don't want to say educate, but uh, share my knowledge with this team on on the the project cycle. How is a carbon credit created?
Mhm.
How is a project developed? And what's
Yeah.
needed to generate a uh, good credit, and also the need for innovation in this space. in addition, of course, to this new approach. But I also see like this community being a good platform for
Mhm.
like on a separate note to like what we are doing at the ICR. So
Mhm.
I've been engaged both in dialogue here in the Nordics on voluntary compensation, and also
Mhm.
like I chaired a committee here in Iceland on offsetting practices uh,
Okay.
that has released a standard on offsetting for organizations and how to develop a carbon project. So I saw this also as a uh, opportunity to engage with the community on educating on like
Yeah,
climate action
definitely.
and like how
Yeah.
to approach this the best practice.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's actually because you just mentioned community and people getting into the carbon offsetting credits and so on. We're gonna touch that on the last question, but um, so we mentioned this in the beginning very briefly, but I wonder if you could just give us a little bit more information about yourself. What is your background and how long did it take you to get to your position? How can you, or like let's say how you kind of got to where you are right now as the obviously as the CEO of the International Carbon Registry.
So yeah, okay. On that, like uh, yeah, I'll take the longer version. So
Yeah, definitely.
as I said, my background comes from civil and environmental engineering, but soon after the financial crisis, I was finishing my studies, came
Mhm.
home and was offered to stay at the Central Bank of Iceland. Lastly, uh, when I when I quit there, I was managing director of the capital controls. So got
Okay.
really involved in like financial markets and importance of of course registration, uh, transferable instruments, stuff like that. Uh,
Mhm.
then in 2018, when we had lifted the capital controls here in Iceland, I founded a certification body that was focusing primarily on management system certifications, such as ISO 9000, 14000, and some
Okay.
national management systems here in Iceland. We soon
Okay.
got like interest from organizations that claimed that they were doing offsetting, and like a certification, you just need to uh, simplify it. You just need requirements, and then the certification body needs to have some competence to conduct the auditing and certify that
Mhm.
their organization are conforming to the claims. Uh,
Okay.
Looking at this offsetting uh, schemes, that there weren't any like requirements towards offsetting here in Iceland. Looking at it like internationally, there were like vague requirements, like some that had emerged in Canada, something in Australia, but not
Okay.
no standard. So then when it came to the practices of the organization, we saw that there were like a lack of best practice. Uh, Organizations, they were focusing on uh, scope one and two, uh,
Okay.
like scope just direct emissions uh, from own emissions, and then purchase electricity and energy. So we are
Mhm.
completely renewable in Iceland with our energy production. So
Okay.
organizations weren't really grasping their like significant emissions. And then when they were uh, making the claims of offsetting, what they did were just uh, gates with companies here that provided afforestation services that didn't do any registration, no documentation of
Oh,
project,
okay. Okay.
and
Yeah.
like forward-looking, like they will claim offsetting of something that would happen in the future, some maybe in 50 years, because afforestation here in Iceland is really, you have to be really patient.
Mhm.
Uh, so like they weren't aligned in like the time timing. There was a timing mismatch for the claims and when the impact will be materialized. So it was not supporting any NDCs of so national determined contributions of Iceland or like the Paris Agreement. So we saw, okay, we need to establish the infrastructure so organizations and climate projects can um, do this transparently and with like real impacts, do it best practice. So that's
Yeah,
where I decided to
that's when you kind of stepped in. Yeah.
create the carbon registry, create
Mhm.
this infrastructure was really much needed uh, for the domestic action. Looking
Yeah.
at it at the international level, then also seeing that there were like also barriers for like innovation in this space. So here in Iceland, we have this CCS technology, this like mineralization of CO2, uh, and allowing such a technology to participate in this market, you go through a really uh, uh, I don't want to say difficult, but challenging and costly and time-consuming process
Mhm.
to get a methodology approved by a
Yeah.
standard. So we wanted also to create this platform, this this standard that would promote uh, like forward action in uh, climate projects and also support and promote like innovation in the space. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think this
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing. That sounds
more or
that
less
sounds like
that's
that sounds like yeah. All I can say is just by we mentioned, we mentioned how the IMPT team is very knowledgeable, and honestly, what you've been telling us today about everything about carbon credits and just everything, just hearing you speak, yeah, I'm it's a lot to take in. So I'm sure that to anyone who's listening, this our live stream is actually going to be saved on the YouTube channel, so you can always replay it, and you can see it again. So the last question of the AMA: have you got any tips for people who are new to carbon offsets and carbon credits? Or how would
so
you kind of started in that way? Something for people just getting into it.
like that like I would say like consider carbon credits as you are supporting climate climate action outside of you what you can contribute towards with your own actions. So uh, look at it from that perspective, from its impact, what you are contributing to, like and knowing around this space. It's important to that you are knowledgeable uh, of what takes to create a carbon credit, what it represents, and the tasks that are associated with creating a carbon credit. So that's like the like to get some knowledge on the project cycle, how it's
Mhm.
done, and also like yes, study like different standards like Vera, gold standard, of course ICR and CDM. I would strongly promote that, but I can promise you that it's not a pleasant read. It's like full of requirements and what
Yeah,
you have to do to conform to them. But like get familiar with the process of creating a project, so you can be
amazing.
know what you are holding at the end.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. This is for everyone who's just tuning in. Yeah, thank you so much for answering that. And this will be the end of the AMA. If anyone here has any more questions, please put it in the Discord. We'll be ending the AMA here. However, I'm sure that we'll be hearing from Gudmundur again, so we can always answer more questions in the future. Thank you so much, Gudmundur. Thank you so much for this knowledgeable AMA. I don't know, would you like to share anything before we end things here?
No, just thank you for inviting me. It was a
No,
really pleasant
definitely.
to you, Casper.
Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for sharing so much knowledge and information. Yeah, we'll end it here. And yeah, thank you so much for coming, guys. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the chat. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.